To Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. We're going to have a great show this morning. We have Nick Gervais, who's just waiting in the wings, and we'll bring her on to say good morning. And then we'll have some weather. And then we'll have Councillor Mike Parent from Ward 5, Greater City of Sudbury, on to talk to us today, have a conversation. A few questions from some of our viewers and listeners, and hopefully it'll be a great show. It'll be informative. We'll get some answers to questions, and we're grateful for Mike and him just being open to be able to come on to the show and take questions. Not all the counselors are like that. So good morning, Nick. How you doing? I know you're texting.
Oh, good morning.
You're sharing the show with everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Telling Instagram to come and join us. We're going to have a good conversation. It's going to be a good show. I'm excited.
Good stuff. We got questions ready to go for Mike Parent, Ward 5 Councillor, Greater City of Sudbury. We'll be back with him. Nick, your questions and comments and much more right after some weather. We'll be back. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. For all things Sudbury Weather, visit sudburyweather.ca. We're grateful that just for those that are just tuning in, again, we're just going to get through our weather, and then we'll have Nick and Mike on the show this morning. Hopefully Mike's able to make it. Hopefully the link works and stuff. I'll have to check my email just in case, as we are waiting for him to jump on. So let's see here. So yeah, nothing. So it looks like everything's smooth. Get back to my weather screen here. Minus 10 degrees currently. It feels like minus 18. There's a light snow shower. I love that terminology. A snow shower. Today, flurries, wind up to 15 kilometers per hour, so very light. High of minus 10, wind chill minus 25 in the morning, minus 17 this afternoon. Tonight, flurries, about 2 to 4 centimeters. Wind will be moderate again, and the low of minus 16, wind chill near minus 22 tonight. And then tomorrow, flurries, about 2 to 4 centimeters. Light wind again, minus 11, with the wind chill will be near minus 23. But the high will be minus 11 tomorrow again with some flurries. Sunny on Thursday. Sunny on Friday, so minus 14, minus 16 Thursday and Friday. Chance of flurries, 30% on Saturday, minus 13. And then sunny on Sunday. I can't believe I've never seen in the last, month or so many days with just sun. So that's positive. Sunny and minus 8 on Sunday. Monday, minus 8 and cloudy. And this is a look at your satellite. January 16th. That's today at about 4:30 a.m. You can just see a mixed bag there, but you can see some of the clearing that we might be getting. The clouds are starting to break up a bit over northern Ontario. That's your Sudbury Weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. Going to be a great show. Okay, and we're back with the Nick. Just still waiting for Mike to jump on with us anytime, but that's fine. We can hold the fort until then. And I got some questions ready to go here. Two people, Minik and Vin, shared their questions on Messenger. So I just copied and pasted into my email so that way I can manage it here for Mike when he comes back. But there's so many questions that came, or comments came from the two viral posts that I put out there. One was about the photo
Oh, there's Mike.
radar and cameras. Yep. And then one was
Perfect.
also about the snow removal and how everyone was, feeling about that. So a lot of comments, and I hope Mike had a chance to go on our Facebook. But if not, we're gonna just have a chat about it now, anyways. And welcome, Mike. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. Morning, AJ. Morning, Nick. And I apologize. I was actually waiting in the room, and then I realized there was one more toggle I had to select to bring me into the live room.
Well, it was perfect timing, so there's no problem there at all. So appreciate you being here. And
Yeah, good morning.
yeah,
Morning.
we got lots of people joining us here already. So I'm just going to put the comments "Good morning" up on the screen as we go through. If you're able to catch some of the questions for us this morning, if there's any coming through, I have some kind of ready to go here.
Just from Belinda.
Okay, so
Yep.
what's Belinda? Oh, she asked a question so far. Okay, it was posted when you
On
asked
your
the question.
page. I have it.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Marianne from Barrie liked and shared. Yes, Mike, you're here for sure. And I see what you mean now. You were texting saying you were waiting. Okay, got it. I have those moments every day, actually. Something
all
like
good.
that. Okay, good. So let's just dive right in here. And so how has your new year been so far, Mike?
It's actually been quite good. I think we're just getting ready for what I think is going to be a very um, busy year in 2024. How has your new year been so far for you, and for you as well, Nick?
Mine's
Mine's
been
been
good so far. You go ahead, Nick.
mine's been really good. I'm not gonna complain. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of stuff happening in the world, so everyone wants a really good 2024, and I feel like we're gonna have to be prepared.
Yeah, I'm the
for
same. Yeah.
for the it's just so hard to trust anybody or anything these days. But personally, I'm having a great New Year's, and we need to just stay positive and do this exactly the thing, because sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge or a lack of wisdom, and we don't necessarily know exactly what's going on, and it's just we need good news in Sudbury, especially.
Yeah, and when I was campaigning, a year and a half ago, that trust theme came up often. And when you associate, politics and trust, well, there's definitely a bit of a gap there, which is why I do these, right? I'm just a common person. 20 years ago, as a paramedic, I went underground, worked as a miner, worked my way up through, through mining, and here I am. And the only reason I ran for politics is not because I ever wanted to be a politician. I just didn't care much for the direction of our city. I love our city. I care about our community. And I was just like, all right, enough. And what I was seeing as far as how we were spending money and depleting the reserves and kind of just wasteful, I just couldn't stand anymore. So I'm not one that just sits on the bleachers very long. I jumped in. Here I am. So when I come to you, I'll tell you what I know if I'm permitted to. If there are things I can't share because there are reasons for that, then I won't. I'm not going to
Right.
deceive you. So that's why I'm here.
Perfect. And
Well, that's good.
that's an awesome beginning to
Yeah.
our conversation, because a lot of people, and this is the thing, I think a lot of people are skeptical of politics, but I think it's up to every individual to educate themselves. And I think a lot of us take the lazy route and just want to be told, and then we're susceptible then to just susceptible to the just the emotions of different things rather than the knowledge of things, and people get emotional without the understanding. And so I think the more we have a knowledge, and we're knowing what's going on out there, the less emotional it will be, or the more emotional it'll be in a positive way, and we'll know what we can do to make our community better, right? To get involved and do something about it.
Well, this is what we're all about, and that's why Aaron has the show, so that we can have these conversations, these hard conversations, and just to know, because like yourself, Mike, I'm just a regular girl who has a strong opinion and who's interested in talking about hard things. A lot of people aren't interested in talking about hard things, and we should be able, as a community, talk about hard things and not get offended. and not get butt hurt. And we should be able to be like, okay, that is your opinion. This is my opinion. Like, of course, there's a side of me that's like, okay, great, Mike, you're brand new. You're going to go out there and then you're going to get corrupted. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen, But I know people who know you. They think very highly of you. So I need to have hope and I need to have faith and stay positive. There are people, but truly the city is very corrupt. It's going to be hard for one person to make a difference. But Mike, you're doing something, which is awesome. You're not, like you said, you're not just sitting on the sidelines. You're actually going to go out there and try to fight the fight for the people, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, it's like any other thing. If you have a couple of persons in politics that are found to be corrupt, unfortunately, a large number of others get painted with that same brush, even though it may be unfounded. But
Yep.
I get it. I mean, again, we go back to that trust. You trust somebody, you vote for them, they get into a position. Some believe there's power to it. I don't really see it that way. I really see it as I'm an advocate that tries to influence and advocate for the changes that you were elected to do. But then somebody messes it up, and then we all live with that, trying to challenge to gain and keep that trust. And there are times where, as a politician, you say, this is what I want to, this is what I believe in as as your politician, as your advocate, and then new information comes up. And then you realize that new information sometimes will influence a decision. And again, sometimes members of the public say that, oh, well, they lied to us. Well, it's not really that they lied to us. We have an oath to keep. And that oath says, you remain objective really to the last minute and you listen to all the information before making a decision. And what happens, I think, and again, a year and a half, it was just regular Joe. And I'm still find myself and believe myself to be that today, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
is that you get a lot of information, you listen to a lot of people. And for me, and I know for a number of my colleagues I've become very close with, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying hard to make our city better. And really, regardless of some of the topics we're going to talk about, no matter what you decide, I want to support a new arena, I want to support an old arena, you're going to have a population or a part of our population that's going to disagree with some of our decisions, period. And we can't do everything to please everyone. I can't be populist. It's just not a way to approach being a politician. So, I'll do my best to answer the questions today. And I think I'll just give a quick shout out to Councillor Labe, who sent me a message that she'd be listening this morning. So good morning to you, Natalie, and hope you have a pleasant drive to work.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for being here, Mike. I truly believe that if politicians did this more often, showed us how human you are, just come and talk to people and let people know what's going on. I understand that things are really busy in life, and people don't really have the time, but this makes you look more human. This makes you more, it's not like, oh, Mike Patton's an article where people don't really know what's going on. When you get to come here and be more, I know it sounds weird, but people need to see that side of you, that you're just a regular Joe that's just really trying to make the city better. Just like the people watching the show, this is what we want. So I think you're doing a really good job.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I might be a little hard on you because I feel like that's my job.
No,
but
Mike doesn't see what you're doing here. You're building him up. You know what I mean? So whenever I hear Nick, that's right. Yeah, you got to be very leery when a Nick does it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that's all good.
Let's just dive right in. I don't know where this song is. I've had it muted, but just to kick off. Okay, so the first subject of today, let's just dive right in. Let's talk about Sudbury's downtown and all the things that, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. So what's the latest? We got the city has purchased a lot of the buildings and businesses in and around the Sudbury Arena. Do you have anything you can tell us as to what you do know of what we can expect? Dates, what's involved, or I pretty much could probably tell you what I think, and it's probably pretty on par. But just maybe give us an update what's going on downtown. It's a very polarizing thing. A lot of people are like, just refurbish the old arena, leave things as they are. Why do we need to be spending money when it could go to homelessness and things like this? And other people are like, no, we need a new arena. It makes the city, it modernizes the city just like any other city, things like that, right? So
it makes money, it creates jobs,
stuff like that. So there's positives and negatives, but what are the plans according to the city, with the downtown?
Yeah. So again, I would say if you had asked me 2 years ago, I was a strong advocate of refurbishing the arena. I love going to the arena. I go to Wolves games. I've been to Sudbury 5 games, and I plan to go to more this year. And I've been to concerts and other events. It's kind of the heart of our downtown. And some people say, "Wow, there's all these other outlying communities." I get that, but you still have to have that urban hub, if you will, that cultural place where people come to, and that's the downtown. And then there's the argument, well, it's not safe, there's homelessness issues, it's dirty. Yeah, all of those things are to some degree true. I work downtown, so I know the pains of what's going on downtown. And what we can't do is walk away from it. So we've taken some bold action. We've bought a whole bunch of buildings. We're going to tear them all down, and we've already started. So the Lido was gone. And I've heard from a lot of people we should have torn down. It was salvageable. Could have done something. It wasn't. Engineers looked at it. There's a reason nobody was buying it, is because there were just some real issues, structural issues that weren't worth repairing. And so, with the new mayor, he had a vision of, we can start by looking at our downtown, kind of giving a clean, a clear canvas to work off of, and then we start to build from there. Remove ourselves one level and go a little bit higher. We know that within the city, we have some financial issues. The reserves are gone. So 10 years ago, there was about, I don't know, 100, I believe it was about 140 something million in reserves. We're down to about 30 million. The KPMG reports as a city our size should have at least about 160 million reserves. We don't. We have a huge infrastructure deficit, and we know that operating costs go up just because of inflation. So if we continue to do nothing new, all of those burdens continue to fall on the current taxpayers. So for me, it's how do we find a way to generate more revenue, increase those contributing to the tax levy to start to take the burden off the current taxpayers. And to do that, we need to start with kind of the heart of the city, which is our downtown. So now we've purchased the buildings. There's one that's left to be purchased, that we're going through expropriation, unfortunately. But that's going to basically allow us now to work with private investors to look at all of the opportunities to rebuild our downtown. In parallel, we're going to be dealing with things like persons experiencing homelessness. So the motion that I drafted and was passed a couple of months ago directed city staff to come up with a strategy to end homelessness by 2030. And I know there's a lot of pessimism around that goal, but it has to be the goal. There is no other goal. There isn't an ability to just say, build some tiny houses, it'll take care of issues. Unfortunately, when you have persons who are experiencing homelessness, a large percentage of them have some serious mental health and addiction issues. So if you try and take them and try and create a space for them to live somewhat independently, it doesn't work out very well. You need to have the proper wraparound services to help transition them to either independent or semi-independent living. So this is an opportunity not just to, fix our downtown, clean up our downtown, but work with some of the societal issues we're seeing, like persons experiencing homelessness. So I've said a lot. I'll kind of pause to hear your thoughts.
Well, this sounds, of course, I have an opinion, but this sounds all great, Mike. I agree. The homeless need to move. They just need to go. They need to go somewhere. It's just not safe. I don't like going downtown with my daughter. It's just not safe. This is a constant thing, and it seems like it's not being heard. There's millions of dollars being built for infrastructure for these homeless. There's like an apartment building that's happening, and it's just like, you just said it. You can't just move these homelessness. You can't just move them. You need to help them. But where's this help, Mike? Like, what's happening? No, I know we're supposed to be talking about the arena, but I'm really passionate about this. There's not enough services for them. Build them a little small town city and create infrastructure around them. Grab that $40 million. Like, why is $40 million built? I think it's 10 apartments or 10 units. It's not a big place that we're building for them, and it's costing $40 million. I don't know. I built an apartment, $20,000. So where, it's just the money, it just sounds like big amounts of money that is happening. There's just not enough help. And it just seems like the city doesn't really want to help them eternally. Like, they'll just have these services, but no, they need rehab. They need to go and do detox, and they need lots of help.
So if I can add to Nick's comments here and put it in the form of a question, it would also be, so if the mayor's and council's goal is to eliminate homelessness by 2030, how are we going to do that?
Yeah, so great question. So I'll start with Nick. I'm not sure which unit you're talking about for 40 million, but I do know like the Lorraine Street project's coming at a total cost of 14 million, and they're going to be 44 units. And these units are being built custom for persons with these kinds of issues. We're going to be taking some of the persons with some of the most serious mental health and addiction issues and looking to place them there, but with the services there 24/7, so that we're trying to help them transition. I'm when it comes to addiction, it's near and dear to my inner circle, and a large number of persons who are suffering addiction, unfortunately, will never become 100% abstinent of any kind of drug or alcohol. So what you're trying to do is create a place where they can at least become somewhat independent, somewhat um, you know. Uh, living somewhat of a normal life, even with some level of addiction. And others may come and clean right up and stay clean. That would be great as well. And I think there'll be some of those good news stories that come out of this. So we start with Lorraine Street. The federal government helped subsidize that. So it didn't cost Sudbury taxpayers a whole lot of money, but it's going to create 44 space expected to
That's
open in
awesome.
June. With the motion, the city is looking at other locations, somewhere where again you can bring, a larger number of persons, but with the services. As far as the money being thrown at this, in Sudbury alone, there are over 140 agencies delivering over 700 programs towards mental health, addiction, homelessness. So you think about the amount of money being thrown into this, it's phenomenal. So it's not a lack of money. It's really probably more of a lack of coordinated effort. And
Yes.
each of these agencies want to survive on their own. They're all important to them. And I get that, right? So I'm a director for this organization. I'm very passionate about my cause. I want to go around and do this. And then the organization beside me, they're very passionate, very caring people. They get some money from provincial, federal, and they want to do that other thing. And all of a
Well,
sudden, we all start to try and do things. So you're
we're
running around giving them
competing
a
for the
code.
money, right, Mike? We're competing for
Yeah.
the money. And this is a dangerous thing. Like, what is the goal, people? It's to help the homeless. Where I was part of an organization where it was all volunteers and the city shut us down. And we were seeing real changes with real people. And these are like, why it was being shut down is because these day areas where the homeless would go for the day, well, they weren't volunteering, they weren't signing up anymore, so they were losing some money, and then the city came and shut us down. Like, it just, I've been in it. It doesn't look like the city actually really cares, and it's all these organizations competing for the homeless, and this should not be the goal. Like, if we remove homeless, all these organizations are just going to shut down. I don't see that happening. I don't, like, where are all these people? They're all going to lose their jobs. Where are they going to go? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, this is not going to happen by 2030.
Right. But that's going to be the goal, Nick. And I'm going to do everything I can between now and then to work with staff. As far as a couple of things you said, like the staff I work with care a lot. And maybe the perception from the outside, seeing some decisions that maybe appear cold or not caring, maybe that happens. But the conversations we have, very much genuine
What
caring people.
organization are
Our
you?
city, the
Oh,
the
the
city
city.
staff, yeah, they very much care. Like when we receive, like last night, we receive a weekly report. One of the first things on there is homelessness and what we're doing, what's out there, and how much, resources are being applied to it, making sure we have a warm space for everyone. So I'm not seeing a lack of caring for the issue. I think that, like
Well,
every other city, we're trying to
it,
figure it out.
Well, it's also all the rules. In Sudbury, we have insane amount of rules and regulations and policies. So this building was okay to host like sport events in the gym, and it was okay to have a bar, but it wasn't okay to have homeless living in the gym. And then all of a sudden, this whole building got shut down. So it's all these policies. So these people might care, and they're like, we care, but this is the policy that we need to obey by. So unfortunately, we have to shut down the building.
And that's a good point. And Nick, a city cannot care. That's impossible
Right.
for a city is not a human being. Like
True.
a government can't care. The individuals who make it up can work to make policies that the end result has a caring solution to it, or at the end of the day, it brings something good. You know what I mean? But a city cannot care in and of itself, right? So it's the policies that are important. And if you look at those, what end goal do the policies lead to? Is it favorable for people? And that's why I'd asked Mike, what are the plans? Like, and coordinated effort is part of it, to coordinate all of these agencies together. Homelessness has been around since the dawn of creation, or whatever, however you want to look at creation. However back your history knowledge goes of humankind, as far as I know, there's always been homelessness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this city would be the first ever to abolish it if we reached our goal. Now, I appreciate, Mike, when you say, what other goal can you have? Like if you shoot for the stars, you'll hit the moon, kind of thing. Well, that's good, and I understand. Is that kind of like what it is? Because homelessness, if we eradicate homelessness, we'll have to then bottle that up and bring it to every other city in the world, because
Like,
they're going to be really
inflation. Everything's
interested in
going up.
Yeah, and
More
how
people
we.
are becoming homeless every day.
So again,
And
right?
people are driving from Toronto. They're shipping them from everywhere.
Okay, so again, lots being said here. I'll try and break down some of the parts. Some cities, there are a couple of cities in the U.S. and other parts of the world, have done a very good job. And I'm not going to say there's absolute zero homeless, but they don't have a homeless issue. Now, when I was a paramedic here, late 90s, early 2000s, we had some people homeless. I knew them by name.
Mhm.
There were so few of them that we knew them by name, and we knew a little bit about them. But that's just not true today. There are just so many. And when you're talking in the hundreds, it's really difficult to know any of them by name. The other part to it is it's very transient. So we say, well, they're here from Toronto. Well, to a degree, that's somewhat true. But what we're learning is those who are the ones that kind of stay around here are from here. The ones that are transient are in, and usually within 30, 90 days, they're gone to another city. So they could be from Toronto, they could be from other northern communities, but it's very transient. So again, we're learning more about the population. I'm trying to remember all the things we just talked about here.
There was a lot, but it's
Just
fun.
like what specific things? Is there money coming in from the federal government, or is there other projects that are going to be helping the mental health? Because that's really the serious problem. And that's what a lot of people are saying, is that we need 24/7 help, and they don't need each an apartment. Like, we had a big gym. They were the happiest because they're always together. They want to be together. They need community. We all need community. So
Yeah. When
again,
when
the
was that,
policy,
Nick? That was a couple of years ago.
the yes,
About 2
Okay,
years
so
ago. Yeah.
what's
2020.
what's changed in the last, not even 2 years, last 6 months, is the amount of violence we're seeing with the population, and that's very different. And what we've seen in the last even 4 months is a sharp increase in violence amongst the persons experiencing homelessness, and that's becoming a real issue for us. We struggle to attract staff to a number of shelters and warming centers, and then when you're seeing these kind of violent situations, it's definitely not helping the situation. Now, back to the question of, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, again, we're waiting a report in March to help provide some direction, but it's a complex situation that needs a lot of responses. Some of them we're not waiting. We need places for people to live, and I share and I agree with you, Nick, 100%. There will be more homelessness this time next year. Person experiencing homelessness. I just truly believe that to the core, which is really my motivation to get moving and do things now, because we're seeing rent evictions. We're seeing slumlords pushing people out because they can get better than market rate for their apartments, and anything the government provides as subsidy is just not enough for them. So we're pushing people out of their spaces so that others can benefit from it. The other part to it is short-term rentals, right? The Airbnbs. That this again, if I was a landlord, like, I have headache tenants, I'm tired of it. I'm just going to rent it 2-3 days a week, make just as much money without that long-term commitment, without all the headaches. So all of these are contributing to the problem. A lot of things we're doing in the background is really finding ways to get builders to build more and fast. One of the challenges is developers want to build and make money, and I get that. That's what they do. Well, to build and make money, like a single family residence, is like 500,000-600,000 at the starting point. We don't have a lot of
Mike,
people looking for that.
why do you think, even to start building, okay, this is a problem with the city, just to want to start building that little piece of paper that you need to just start building? How much is it for a house these days? It's thousands and thousands and thousands. I think it's like $20,000. I'm not really sure. I don't know the complete detail, but I speak to people, and it's just like, if you're a regular family and you just to put a stake in the ground in Sudbury costs an insane amount of money, where I believe it's not the case in other places, where, again, does the city really care about growing? Does the city really care? The city has no feelings in it. I understand that. But these policies These
So
policies, you know?
I have feelings, and I'll share with you. Councillor Forte and I actually put in a motion to try and freeze development charges, which I think is what you're
Cool.
speaking about. Um, and so then we did that, and then we spent time learning about it. So in Guelph, development charges I think are around 40-50,000, and that's the normal price down south, about 40-50. Ours come in around 19,000 for a single dwelling residence.
Okay.
Why that money? Well, when you build more houses, you need more infrastructure, more services to support the when you continue to grow a city.
We pay taxes,
Right. So at one
high
point,
taxes.
municipality said, let's just keep throwing it on the levy. And then at one point, people are saying, well, we're tired of seeing our tax go up all the time. So they decided, well, we're going to put development charges in, and then municipalities adopt that. Growth pays for growth. So now if I decide to build a house, there's a development charge, and it's paying for, future services that are needed, more firefighters, more paramedics, more police, more everything.
But we're cutting all of that down, Mike. So it doesn't really make sense right now. We're cutting everything.
What have we cut?
Paramedics. We've cut firefighters.
We've increased firefighters. We've increased.
Well, okay, maybe in 2023, but we've cut them a lot in 2022 and 2021.
No,
Okay.
those three services have never been cut. And if you look at, I'm deeping diving trying to understand why our costs are where they are. I took the financial statement from the city. It's available online in 2010 and compared to 2022.
Okay.
The most significant cost increases total for this city by a large amount are those three services: fire, paramedic, and police. And again, when I was a paramedic, there probably wasn't even half the amount of crews that there are today. Why is it that we need more? Well, the population, Sudbury has a higher level of senior population than most other municipalities. And we also have new emerging issues, so mental health, addiction, and these are all leading to a strain on the healthcare and things like paramedic services. With respect to police services, again, they take a lot of criticism they don't deserve. They're out there dealing with some really nasty things. As a paramedic, I was like, that's a profession I could never do, and I mean that. Those men and women who work in that profession are see things that none of us would ever want anyone to see.
For sure.
So to continue to beat up on them and say, well, they're not doing their job, they are. They're investigating more bad things than I think in the history of people in our city. And then when they investigate those bad things, those usually lead to charges. Those charges usually lead to court time. And you can see now our officers are just being bogged down by the system. So at some point, the chief said, we need to get more resources. It's not a choice. And so we've responded to that, and we're increasing the number of resources. And again, when you see so many bad things, there's going to be a level of things like PTSD and sometimes other consequences to that kind of profession.
Now, I have a question from Monique Dupuis here, and it's on the subject of homelessness. So before we kind of go into other things, she said the city blocks off the homeless on Paris Street, and they had shoveled a few trails to be able to use their bikes in and out of where they're at. And there's a tent city back there, and even the outreach workers are upset. Do you know anything about this, Mike, at all?
I don't. I'm sorry. Again, we're kind of territorial with our wards. We try to know a little bit about what's going on throughout the city, but I don't know anything about that encampment or those trails.
Okay. But I've noticed too, where I live outside the city in the valley, and I see a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness probably setting up camp. You see walking along the road, then going into X place in the bush. So when we stopped them from having their encampment downtown beside City Hall, they were dispersed, right? So now they're just kind of living in the outskirts in the bushes kind of thing. And so when we have this plan of 2030, what plan are we using? Where did it come from? Is there a plan, and who's heading it up?
Yeah, so I think we'll have more answers to that in March when we receive the report.
Okay.
We are doing kind of some check-ins because, again, this is my motion. So the city staff are having some check-ins with me. I'm feeling optimistic about what they're working on, but I'll give them the opportunity over the next 6-8 weeks to finalize that and present to council. And then, maybe in April we come back and have that conversation then based on what we learned in that report.
Cool. This is awesome, Mike. Oh, go on. I think what you're doing is awesome, and it is not an easy job. I would never want to be a politician. It's probably it's very very difficult. But you had mentioned that we're seeing an increase of violence, a significant increase of violence. So let's, populate the downtown and let's bring in more services downtown and build this arena downtown. But we're seeing an increase in violence downtown. What's interesting is when we were all together in this gym, we had a lot of people. There were incidences where there was violence, but they would just get kicked out and people would learn quickly that you can't do this here. So people started acting differently because we knew them by name, we allowed them to share their story, and we give them love. And it was all volunteer. So there was no reason there were like, I know the city, the people really care that if there was an organization where people can just volunteer and help out and bring down the costs, there is a better way of living. But again, it's just, we have to do something with them, move them, or else this great arena might not get as many people because, well, there's an increase in violence. And that's just not a fun statement.
Right, and that's exactly what the whole conversation we're having is to do something. And I've seen comments saying I will never go downtown. I don't like. I get that. I completely get that, and I'm not even going to argue with you on that. What I am doing though is we can just say, well, we're throwing in the towel and we're walking away, and that's the end of it. That's not an option, I think, for most of us. Is that we need to grow our city, attract more people to live in Sudbury, grow the tax base, take the burden off the current home property owners, and at the same time take care of those societal issues. What we're feeling is, you asked earlier, what about the provincial government, the federal government? I don't know. I just, the province has kind of just walked away from us. We've
Yeah.
tried all kinds of things and nothing's worked. So, at some point we have to say what's in our control, and we work within that. So we're not going to just hope for someone to come and save us. I think what we need to
No.
do is build a strong strategy, show that there's a bit of a step change approach, maybe some kind of pilot. And I think that's a better time to approach the other levels of government to say, we're not going to do what everybody else is doing that's not working. We're going to try
No.
something very different. And we have some data or some studies from other areas that seem to support that this has a better outcome than other ways. And we'd like your help. So I believe that this approach may be far better for us than what we're currently doing, which if you look at 140 programs, organization, over 700 programs, and the problem's only getting worse, to keep doing this, just to me, is just that definition of insanity. Do the
Yeah,
same
it's
thing
just a
over and
waste of
over
money,
again.
really.
Exactly.
All of these people are paid by someone. So I like that. If you have and there's probably a couple more questions, but if there's something we can do, if there's someone we could email, if someone that we can call and offer our opinion, if there's something that the people who are watching Sudbury News can do to push your message, because we are agreement that there needs to be change, you let us know, and we would love to share that information.
Yeah, I think when April comes around and we learn what the proposed strategy looks like, and the level of support by council, that'll lead to some decisions and changes. And I think at some point, advocacy to either the provincial or federal governments is something we're going to be looking for. So yeah, at one point, may come on here and ask for persons to reach out to their local MP or MPP to try and get some support for whatever it is we're going to be doing.
So we just experienced two major storms in 1 week. Was there anything that we learned as a city through the last two snowfalls, kind of thing, or where are we at with snow removal? The reason why I asked this is I've shared a post on our Facebook page. Basically, how would you rate Sudbury snow removal in the last week? So I just put a little poll there, and there's 178 comments. I read pretty much most of them, and it's about 50-50. A lot of people understanding the plight that the city is in with the amount of roads that we have and the daunting task it is to clean up, and the amount of time it takes, and understanding side streets versus main arteries and all these things. A lot of people were saying that we're short plow drivers, which I wasn't aware of. If we are, that we're looking for snowplow drivers as a city, and it's hard to get them. That's what some of the comments said, but I'm not unaware of that. So over the past week, what have we learned as a city? What went good, and what kind of things are we going to try to do, if there are any, to improve, if there are ways to improve.
Yeah, and when I see the weather forecast and I see a storm coming, I know what's coming for me and for the other members of councils. A whole lot of messages and phone calls and emails, and it comes with the job. But it is a tough. And again, on Tuesday I had to drive to Toronto for work, so I had to take off in that storm. And if you look at this Highway 69, there's about an 80-kilometer stretch. That's the MTO, and then it switches to MTO and Parry Sound. All they have is about 80, 90 kilometers of road that they have to maintain. That's it, and they have full-time crews, and they were not able to keep up. We were driving at about 70 kilometers an hour all the way to Parry Sound. And same thing when I got to the 400 series. They had a lot of plows out there. Their job is only keep 400 open, and they still struggle to keep up because the snow is falling at such a rate that it's accumulating. And plow can be a couple of hours before it can come back again, and there's an accumulation. By provincial law, there are some roads we have to keep as close to bare as possible. So when there's a significant storm event, we have to keep those roads open. So that's why you'll see them. You live in the Valley, AJ, and I believe you do as well. And Nick, on MR80, you'll see the plows just trying to keep that road open so emergency vehicles and persons can get to the city, at least on those main arteries. So there are, I think in Sudbury, there are 6 tiers of roads, and
Right.
some of the very remote roads become that 6th level, so they get the usually the roads clean last. Have we learned anything? I think we've learned that when there's a significant snow event, for me, is the city throws all of its resources. We do what we call a general call out, which includes bringing in additional resource from contractors. We put all these resources on the road. We try and make sure that the main priority roads are maintained, uh, which we have to. And as soon as we can, we redivert those resources to get to the secondary roads. So I'll pause there. I did also learn, like, we made a decision last spring, due to really public pressure, to do better at sidewalk maintenance. So prior to this year, uh, there was no one to do sidewalks. If we had a storm event Friday afternoon, nobody would do the sidewalks till Monday. And we tried to correct that so that sidewalks are being maintained right through. So for those members of the community who rely on transit, or who look at active transportation as how they get around, that we can continue to provide that for them. Some of the challenges we had this last weekend is some of the employees were calling in because they're unwell. They had something, and we weren't able to replace them. So again, there's an impact. We can't force people to come to work if they're unwell. Something came up in their personal lives. Sometimes that puts a bit of a gap. Nonetheless, it seems to lead to some frustration amongst those who feel like they're not getting the service they deserve.
So I guess there's no like backup type of plan if a snowplow driver calls in sick or whatever. You don't have somebody on reserves
They
or
do.
whatever.
We have a part-time list, and then we
Oh, okay.
have, as I understand it, we use the part-time list. Once that exhausted, we turn to overtime for other staff. And sometimes staff had a long week and they just don't want to work the extra time on weekends. So again,
Hmm.
we can't force people, but from council and working with some of the staff in this area, we've tried hard to find ways to ensure that we're getting the appropriate service levels when we have these events. But there are times it won't be perfect.
And it's funny you mentioned
Yeah.
sidewalks, that we're putting more of an effort into that. And that's the one thing I found a lot of people were noticing, that the sidewalks weren't done. And I've noticed a lot of people walking on the streets as well, which was kind of dangerous. There was a lot of snow on the sides of the roads, and then the roads were more narrow. And then you had people walking their dog or with their children in the sled and whatever on the road because they couldn't walk on the sidewalks. And I understand that. I just wanted to see how the city handles it, and if there's, because I remember, and a lot of people remember, because I lived in the city, 35 years, that the roads seem to be handled better historically, like previous to the year 2000. I'm talking. I noticed when I went to the States for 2 years, I came back and there was a noticeable difference on how the city plowed the roads. Before, as soon as it started snowing, there were plows out there, and they were just right away. As soon as the snow started, they were out there sanding and plowing, and it just seemed that more and more over the years, we just let the snow come. We let the snow come, and then when it's done, then everyone kind of goes out. Is what it seems. Am
Yeah,
I
fair enough.
just not correct on this, or?
So what it is once it starts to snow, again, we have to keep those main roads, and there's a list of roads we have to
Yep.
keep. So the plows go out and they start right away, and then you get the criticism. Oh, they're out when the roads are almost bare. How silly, wasting our money.
And I can
Well,
see
no,
that. Yeah.
they're out because they're trying to prevent that accumulation before it gets out of control. And then within the city, we have one of the better standards. So if you look at Thunder Bay, they don't send crews out like the general call out or to do a lot of the roads till there's at least 10 centimeters. Ours is 8 centimeters. So once we have 8 centimeters of accumulation, then it's really all crews are being called out. So I know we can be, very critical of the system. But at one point when you said, AJ, each municipality did their own thing, we don't know what the outcomes were from one part of the city to another. You had your experience probably here in the valley, and we felt it was really good. But when we became one city, it's now how do we make sure that there's one standard for everyone? So maybe some communities got a little bit less of what they had before as a result of that. But what we do have is 3,600 kilometers of road. You try and think about it. Where can you go if you drove 3,600 kilometers? Probably Florida. And we then have a major storm event where you're getting 30 centimeters of snow, and we're committing to having those 3,600 kilometers of road cleared within 24 hours after the end of the storm event, not at the beginning. As soon as the storm event is declared over, we have 24 hours to get that done. Think of the resources we're throwing at it to get that done.
And I think the city was good. They're proactive putting that out on their social media, basically saying, look, if after 24 hours you notice your street's not being done, then call 311. So I thought that was really great, proactive of the city. Communicate with us if it's not done, because that's your policy, right? Is to have it done within 24 hours. Now, switching gears, no pun intended or pun intended, I'm not sure. The photo rate. Okay, go ahead, Nick. Or you're going to be back. Okay, so photo radar. For the zones that the city has specified. I shared, it was one of my most viral posts I've ever put out there, just showing when the city quantified the importance numerologically of which areas were the priority for these cameras, and thousands of comments. It went to 200,000 views. Many people had many things to say about it. 700 comments. So we were supposed to see some of these rolling out by end of December. Can you give us a little bit of idea when the first ones are going to be in operation?
I was on this this media a few months back, and we were expecting by November. Then we were told December, and then we were told absolute latest mid-January. We're January 16th. I don't have a new update, and I'm not going to bring up information I don't have as fact anymore on this. So I think we didn't have an operations committee this month, but when we do next month or even before then, I'll be reaching out and asking some questions on what the status is. Sometimes there are things that are not in our control, like the service provider may have some challenges on their side that they're not able to have these units ready. But so I don't have anything new to share on when they're going to be installed. And as far as messages, I hear lots about, the frustrations of individuals. It is a divisive topic, and I would say, if I wasn't an elected official, I'd probably be opposed to them as well. You take on a new burden of responsibility when you become kind of an agent of a corporation, director of a corporation. So, this about we don't want government oversight. I get all of that. I truly do. But if you've done a traffic study and you know that within a school zone people are driving at really excessive speeds, and you have that information, then you compound that with a number of calls and complaints that have been registered, at what point is it not your duty of care to do something about that? So
I
if
get that, but I feel like if we look at other places, like for example, Germany has the lowest car insurance rate in the world, and they have no speeding limit. So it would be interesting. Like, it's just the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and people don't call and be like, "Oh, I'm really happy about this." So it's just people complaining, and this is kind of the problem. Like, maybe they're speeding, but is there more accidents? And is there an increase in accidents from last year, the year before? What is the increase? because now you're going to cause way more problems, because a ticket of $100 ticket or 200, and nothing's really clear. Like, can I go 5 over? Can I go 6 over? So it's just, again, it's a lot of unknowns. And again, it's a lot more control. And I get people shouldn't speed, but sometimes you do, because you got to go somewhere at a certain time. And it just what happens, like you could be a single mom with 3 jobs, and you're going to get fired. You're going to speed 10 kilometers over to get to your job so you don't get fired. There's a lot of situations. But that $100 ticket to that mom, that might actually be detriment to her family. So I get we shouldn't be speeding. I totally understand that. But is there an increase in actual accidents?
So I don't have that as a fact, so I'm not going to answer that one because I don't have that as a fact.
I feel like if there were, we would all know, because they would be sharing those statistics, because they love sharing statistics.
Fair enough.
So
And
for
we'll
me,
poke
I
and
think
prod.
that's not the case.
But so, with Germany, they have speed limits. The Autobahn, which is an infrastructure highway, doesn't have speed limits. Germany has speed limits.
But they have a lot higher speeding limits, and some areas don't actually have speeding limits.
No, so the Autobahn does not, but the cities do. They have speed limits, and the speed limits are not that different than ours. When I traveled to northern U.S., there was a posted limit of 60 miles per hour. And I thought, well, in Ontario, you do 7 or 8 more. So did the conversion. I started traveling 67, 68 miles an hour. And then it didn't take me long to figure out I was the only one traveling at 67, 60 miles an hour. Everybody was traveling 60 miles an hour because culturally that's what was being enforced. It didn't take me long to figure out I better slow down, put my cruise on, and follow traffic. That was just on like a secondary highway. Here, when I first moved to Sudbury, when you came to the valley, on MR80 going through McRae Heights, you didn't do much more than the speed limit, maybe 5 over. Because if you did, you were getting a ticket. There was a lot of enforcement, and none of us, our lives were all fine. We all got to work. We made sure we timed it. Culturally, there was less enforcement. We all started to go a little bit faster. And now when I leave for work in the morning, if I'm doing any less than 75, I'm not moving. I mean, just people are flying by. We say, oh, yeah, but there's no accidents. Not a big deal. One, there are accidents, and you can just watch social. There are accidents fairly often, which is what leads to that list. That list is comprised of traffic studies, number of accidents, density of population, some of the other factors like schools. So I don't have all the exact data, but it definitely falls into that risk assessment. Second to that is there are people who live on that piece of road. So I have a couple that I talk to. They're 80 years old. They've been there like 50 something years. And now you imagine on MR80, just after that big corner, I know exactly which house, he's sitting there. He still has driver's license. He's very competent, and I hope to be half as fit as he is when I'm 80. But he has to get onto that highway. How does he get on that highway when there's snow on the ground, so he doesn't have 100% traction, and people are going 110, 120, and he can't get on there safely? So instead of just saying, I decide to sleep in, I decide to take my time to get ready, so now I'm going to have to speed to make up for it, is we should work at saying, I'll be a couple minutes early. There could be a snowstorm. There could be other reasons, but I should try and leave a couple minutes early. I'm not saying
I'm talking like 5-10 there. I'm not talking 40-50. And you're right, Germany does have speeding, and they actually have strict rules in the city. Yeah. And I wonder if it's because you can go to the Autobahn and speed as much as you want. Then so if people like to speed, they go there, and then it doesn't bring it to the city.
Yeah. We don't have, that's a question for the federal government as far as, and I'd be the first to get in line to sign up for that kind of, we have a big country, and if you go across the country, it's not fast to get across because we really don't have that road infrastructure there like the Autobahn. So you're not getting an argument from me. If you travel Northern Ontario like I do, it's always a slow trip compared to other parts of the world. Yeah. And that's the way it is. But with respect to the traffic, I don't know what the threshold is. And Nick, I'm being completely honest. I've asked and they said, we can't tell you. And it's legal reasons. If they tell us and something happens, we can become culpable. But there is a threshold.
Why wouldn't you tell us? Why is everything a secret in the city? Like, why aren't people being transparent? Like, okay, you won't get a ticket 5 over. After 5 over, it's this. This is your ticket. Like, we should be aware of what the system is. I'm paying taxes. I am a community member. I should know what the rules are.
Yes, so good question. If I can answer that. If it says 40, the rule is 40. If it says 50, the rule is 50. The municipality cannot take a position other than that. They cannot. Because if you say, well, the municipality said I can do 44, I lost control and crashed into 2 little kids walking, but it's not my fault. The city said
Yeah.
I could do 44, then we become liable. So the city has no
No.
choice but to say this is a
Because it
threshold.
would be quite easy to be like, okay, you get a ticket at 44. We're not telling you to go 44. So in our policy, if you're going 44 and you hit a kid, that is not our right. You know, the rule is 44, but the tickets start at the rule is 40, but the ticket starts at 44. So it's really
Right.
easy to add that to your policy,
Yeah,
in
well,
my
we
opinion.
can't, and there's provincial rules around this, and we're following guidelines. So they won't even tell me, an elected official, they won't tell me, and I mean this, honest to God, they will not tell me what the threshold is. So what I did when I was at a conference in London last summer is I asked one of the service providers, and he said, "Well, we can't communicate that." He says,
Wow.
and I said, "Well, I'm trying to understand, is it going to be one over?" And he said, "No." I said, "Will it be two
Okay.
over?" And he said, "No." Then I said, "Will it be three over?" And he said, "No." But at one point, he stopped saying no.
Right.
And I don't know if that changes in a 40 to a 60. Is there more threshold in a
Right.
60? Is there more threshold? But we're not looking to, when you look at, again, because I live in the valley, we're not looking to put these between, the bottom of the hill, McRae Heights and LaSalle Notre Dame. We're putting these in school zones, in quiet streets with no
Okay.
sidewalks where there's risk. We're not putting these in areas. So when people say cash grab, if I want a cash grab, I know exactly where I'd put them, and we'd make a ton of money. All the money that the profits that come out of this, the system has to pay for itself. Anything over that's going into a special account, and that special
Yeah.
account's only being used for one reason, is to make roads safer. So when we look at some roads where people say we want some speed bumps because we have kids playing, people drive fast, we don't want to be putting speed cameras everywhere. So we're going to look at investing into infrastructure
I
that
feel
helps
like
make
you're
the
going to
roads
be
safer.
making a lot of money. So you have way more surplus than like installing a couple of speed bumps. I feel like
What's a
if
lot of
this
money?
money, what?
What would you say is a lot of money?
I'm just saying you're going to make a lot of money with these tickets. It's what I'm assuming with the city. The city's going to make a lot of money with these tickets. That I'm just saying that to make these roads safer, like to add some speed bumps, I don't know how expensive it is. Maybe it's really expensive, but
It
if
is.
everyone knew that all this money, but it shouldn't be like
Right.
everybody just,
I
it
don't want us
should,
to make any money. I'd rather I will be on social telling everybody we are putting speed cameras in these locations, and I'll tell them we're moving them to these locations. And the goal here is for
right.
all of us to start to say, I can drive at 10 over if that's the threshold, whatever it is. We're all going to learn it quickly, and I
Yes.
can still get to where I'm going. And if you do the math at kilometers per minute, you're usually talking about a minute or two at
No, you're
most.
right. You're
It's
right.
not a lot of time. It's
It's just the
culturally,
perception.
societally, we're
Yes.
all feeling this need to be in a hurry. I love going to the island because when I used to go to the island, they say, slow down. You're on the island time. You don't worry about being in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I used to like going camping there for those reasons.
We
I know
We
we're
we're
out of
gonna
time. So
we're
we
out
are
of
at,
time. But
we're out of
if
time
the
now.
money would even go to like a homeless problem, that would be kind of cool. I'm just saying.
there's a lot of money in that already. I think we just need to redirect that money
Okay.
into a better
All right.
plan, Nick. And
Well,
for this, it's a road safety issue. Put the money back into road safety.
okay.
You
That's good.
mentioned the cameras are going in school zones. However, can't think of a school that is in Garson on the main road where I saw the sign start to where it ends, the main vein in Garson. So
Yeah,
is there
I
a
know which
reason
one you're
why it's
talking
going
about.
there, or there's no school there?
Number of accidents, and then the traffic studies suggest a whole lot of other reasons. It's no different than Calmo-Bots, and it wasn't even on the list till the community were calling me and saying we have a problem, and I didn't know what to do, so we did a traffic study. And on a Tuesday afternoon, people are doing 120, 130 kilometers an hour down to 60. Why? And so people were justified saying it's unsafe to walk my dog. It's unsafe for me to go out and walk along this road. The study, within only a couple of days, they had to stop it. It was just like, yeah, we have a problem. So it's now on the list for those reasons,
Hmm.
really risk based. So, there are some areas that may not be in the school zone due to other reasons, like the number of collisions or the density of population combination with the traffic study showing speeding. But most of those on the initial list are school zones. In the valley here, the first is going to be on Main Street because, again, it's at one of the top as far as risk, and right after that, it's going to be Valley View.
So one of the things that some people are concerned with, it starts here, but could it end where just there's cameras everywhere on every street? Because
I won't support it. I don't
you,
think the other members
you
of
can
council
you can
support
start
that.
speeding afterwards, so someone will just go the speed limit in the zone, and then they'll speed after, and then people go, yeah, but people, they do the speed limit in the zones, but then they speed afterwards. So it's like, yeah, and then we put the studies right after the camera zones, and people were speeding, and it's dangerous. So
Yeah,
again,
you have
this kind of
six
thinking,
cameras. 6 cameras are going to be moved around. So if
yeah,
that's the logic people use, at some point they're going to get a ticket. The idea is not to get people tickets. The idea is for us to
yeah,
say, I can probably drive within a little bit over limit, which I didn't say, but there's probably a threshold that we can get to where we need to go, safely for everyone, that allows people to
yeah,
back out of their driveways if they live on a busy road, or for kids, not having
yeah,
that concern around a school zone. It's really tough when you're elected and you get a call. There's one street I went on door to door, and the people there were just hammering me. I wasn't even elected yet. And then something bad happened a few months ago because of a speeder. And then you know what I get? I told you so, and you didn't do anything.
yep.
And again, you live with that. You live with that. So,
It's
uh,
complicated.
I don't want more
You're
government.
just one
I don't want
person too.
cameras. I don't want people
You
watching what we
know?
do. Just trying to calm
Yes.
traffic a little. And I'm hoping these can go away
Yes.
over time.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we
Well,
talked.
thank you so much for Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, we talked about smart cities before, and there was all this coming up in all of the town hall meetings, and Tyler Clark from Sudbury.com said it was conspiracy theory. All these conspiracy theorists talking about smart city, and then 2 months ago or a month ago, Justin Trudeau visited Sault Ste. Marie and declared Sault Ste. Marie the first smart city in Canada. So I just want to give that a shout out, and know that we need to be looking into where these ideas come from that cities adopt. And maybe going forward, I'd like to talk to you more about where our city gets our policies from, including abolishing homelessness by 2030. Where did that idea come from? Was it someone in Sudbury, or did it come from outside of Sudbury? And is there some people that might come to us and say, well, we have a plan, you can just put it in place, and if it does come from outside. So maybe
So,
just,
Aaron, you're
yeah,
talking to the guy who came up with the idea. There's
yeah,
nobody who influenced me. This is
no,
me caring
perfect.
about people living
Yep,
downtown. And you can talk to Councillor Forte. I ran
yep,
into her at Costco, and I said, last night I've made a decision. We're putting in a motion. I need you to second it. We're going to end homelessness. And she said, what the hell
Well,
are you talking about?
yep,
There's no outside. I'm just some guy who right now is in his basement with his workout
yep,
equipment behind him.
for sure.
I'm not connected. I was born in a small town. My
Yep,
father was a paper maker. I've
yep,
never been affiliated with any other party. I'm just like you. And what I'm sharing is there was no outside influence. This was really just a
no.
genuine care for our city and needing to do a step change approach to deal with the issue.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't accusing that I was saying, for example, when
Yeah.
we have things like this, where are we getting the plans from? Sure, you can even come up with the idea, but then someone's like comes up to you and says, "Oh, you want to do that? Well, look, here's the plan that we did over here." And the city has a lot of these plans they adopt from outside sources. So between now and
costs a
then,
lot
that's
of money.
something we're going to be talking about, outside influences influencing our city. Like amalgamation was an outside influence that influenced our city, and now people live with it. So it didn't come from us, it came from outside. So all of these outside forces working on us, some might be good and some might not be, but that's what I'm going to put a little bit of my effort into. We can maybe talk about the next time we come on, if that's
All right.
okay.
Sounds good. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, thank you for the opportunity. And again, I try and share in a transparent manner what I know with your viewers and your listeners. And I truly
Hmm.
wish everybody a great day. And if you have questions, send me a direct message. I'll do my best to respond to it in a timely manner.
Thanks,
Well, I
Mike.
hope you come back, and I hope I wasn't too hard and you come back, because this was really good show, and this is what we like. And you're just showing up as a real human, and that you really care. So I really appreciate that.
We
Okay.
haven't confirmed that, Nick. That could be, we could be an AI.
He might be an
replica.
AI.
You can't
Well,
confirm that right now.
I will put in a plug for Positive Inception for Ryan Benoit.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to support our
Love
community,
him.
and a great individual, I encourage you to see him on LaSalle. And I don't think AI would have done that. So thank you both, and
Okay,
have an
perfect.
awesome day.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Stay
bye.
tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back same time, same place, God willing, tomorrow. Have a great one. Ciao.
Is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.